right. I'm super excited to dive in with Joey's business. I have a little bit of an understanding before we got started here. And ultimately, he has a lean, mean team, right? Can you just give us a high level of like what the team looks like and then we'll start diving in?
Absolutely. So I have Ella. She's out of the Philippines, and she right now is my executive like assistant. She wears lots of different hats in the business. She was a transition coordinator, and she was so awesome at that I promoted her to like my right hand lady, right? And then I have another gentleman, awesome guy, tons of real estate experience out of Tampa, Florida. He's an American out of Tampa. His name's Craig, and he's just awesome attitude. Great guy. He was a trainer for years for Keller Williams, training new real estate agents. And he was my dispo. He wears also different hats, and I call him really my relationships director. So he's really just there to build relationships with their agents, their wholesalers. He also does dispo as well.
Okay. And then, so it sounds like you're wearing the acquisitions hat. And then are you running your own marketing as well?
I am. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And you've been doing this business for over a decade, correct?
That's close to a decade.
About a
Well,
decade.
yeah, technically, actually, more than a decade, full time for just under a decade. Yeah.
Okay. So before we even dive into like some moving pieces that we want to talk about, could you tell me like what is the end game? Do you have an end game? Like what are we trying to reach first?
Great question. So the end game originally was to create passive income. So I was moonlighting way back when in 2012, 2011, actually, going back to 2011, 2012 as a taxi driver, believe it or not. I was getting my master's degree. And it's a long story. I'm not going to go into how that happened, but I live in Columbus, Georgia, and we're right next to Fort Benning. And so my wife at the time, she's not my ex-wife, but she was working at a sleep center, randomly ran into this guy who was running a taxi company. He left his business card. I was looking for a flexible employment, and she gave me his business card because she knew I was looking for something that was flexible. And long story short, I turned my Toyota Corolla into a taxi cab. So it was my first taste of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And while I was doing that, I was actually making surprisingly good money for back then. I mean, I would clear, in a weekend. There's weekends I'd make $2,000, $3,000 in a single weekend. On really good weekends. But I was putting in tons of time. It was very stressful, and obviously, I was trading time for money. And so this was before like podcasts. Podcasts had become a really big thing, and I think it was like in the first single digits still episodes of Bigger Pockets podcasts, right? With Brandon Turner and I can't remember the other guy's name right now. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you've heard the podcast. Everybody has heard of it by now. So anyway, I was listening to those, and they were talking about obviously investing in real estate, and so that's when the light bulb went off. In between the downtime between fairs, I was like, I need to get into real estate. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need to buy my first rental property, and I'm going to passively invest in real estate until I can, basically buy my time back, right? I think which is why most of us get in. So long story short, that was the end game, was to buy my time back. I had two daughters at the time. Now I got remarried after I got a divorce. I have five total children now, three young boys and two older daughters. So
Okay.
one is still in diapers. My oldest I graduated high school this last year. So yeah, I started over, and so still the same kind of thing. Found out really quickly that hey, real estate, especially having rentals, is a lot more than just passive, right? I mean, eventually you can get to that point. I mean, I envy where you're at. It's awesome where you guys have gotten, but it takes a long time to get to a place where most people never achieve that real passive income. It becomes very active and just becomes a job that I love, but more or less a job, right? Full-time job.
This is just my own like personal point of view. No one has to agree with it. I've just always been under the philosophy of like, I always see these things of like trading time for money and all that. And we all like get into this business thinking that, but it's like we have to be active and work really hard before we ever deserve this end result. And so I think that sometimes, like when we read things about real estate or we get into some program and we all get motivated, it's like, I want passive income. I want all, I want this freedom. And it's like, well, that doesn't just really happen that way.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, especially in a lot of conversations I have, people get down on themselves because they think they're supposed to be somewhere by now with passive income. And I've always said, like, if I were you, I would focus solely on active income until passive income, like, you literally can store money in a bank and it just literally makes your living by doing that. That's like true passive income to me. I have never in my whole real estate career ever believed that rentals are actually passive because they're not. And by the time you actually have enough of them to make a living off of it, they are not passive. It's just another job. And so, and it doesn't matter. Like I think that you should still buy rentals, you should still build wealth and all that. Just don't think that they're going to make money while you sleep. That's just not how it works. Um so it sounds like, and I could be wrong, but it sounds like over this journey, right? And a lot of us go through this. You've had growth spurts, you've had downs, you've had ups, you've had downs, and it sounds like a rubber band effect where you're like, you make progress and you're snapping back, you're making progress, you're snapping back. And so right now, if you could tell me what is the goal, say over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, just get some more stability and consistency, right? We like you said, the rubber band effect. Bring on eventually once I get that consistency going again, definitely bring in some more acquisition. Probably just one. I don't want to complicate things. That's when we were doing our best, is when things are super simple. I learned that the hard way. So yeah, I definitely want to keep things super simple, but the goal is to really get to the point where I can eventually buy back some of my time. But for now, just to get, I'd say the next 6 months is first thing first is to get consistency back in the business. And
What
that's
does
to,
consistency mean to you though? Like, is it
right.
2 deals a month, 10 deals a month, 20? Like,
Yeah,
what does that mean?
I'd say I'm all about this point in the game. I'm more about quality over quantity. So I'd rather do two fat juicy deals than 5 or 6 skinny deals, right? So 2 juicy deals, what does that mean? $30,000 to $40,000 profit per deal. That'd be nice. I'd be okay with even in the low 30s, but on average, if we could average right around 30 K a deal and just do 2 deals a month consistently, we have low overhead. Keep our low overhead low. I learned that also the hard way is sometimes you're spending a lot of money and you're making a lot of money, but you're spending more than you think you are, and next thing you know, you're not making nearly as much as you thought you were. So yeah,
So,
definitely.
what do you think's holding you back right now from getting just a couple deals a month consistently?
Um, that's a great question. A few things. I was spending a lot of my time on managing a team. I've since let go. I still obviously have some people on the team, but I was spending way too much time on that, and we weren't getting the results that we should have been getting for various reasons. And I take the blame, like I said, for that. Um, Got to work on being a better leader. Um,
I'm just curious if we go back to when you built the team, like, how did you recruit them? Like, how did you even go about finding the people?
I'm not going to mention the name. I hired a company to basically find basically the whole team, or at least part of the team. I also hired like a secondary company to hire like my VAs out of the Philippines. So two different companies. One was primarily tasked with hiring acquisitions, dispositions, both American or expat based, and the other one was strictly out of the Philippines. And so
So,
out
when
of
you said American, were they in America or were they Americans out of the country?
both, yeah, it could be either or. It was preferable, just from a cost, standpoint. So you can pay a little bit less, for them to be maybe Central America, maybe Colombia, different places, where we could, the base pay would be a little bit less than maybe what an American would expect.
Do
And
you think that looking back now, that worrying about them being paid a little bit less worked out, like versus hiring someone locally?
well, there's a lot of things that go into that. I think number one, I would have, I would have spent more time learning just about the whole hiring process, and I probably would have. I mean, even being under some of your coaching, I probably would have looked at that material and spent more time and dove into that a lot more instead of like trying to, find my who, not the how. I know that it's kind of a flashy buzzword, but in this case, I definitely should have spent more time. I think running our own ads, going in Indeed, finding our own people, vetting our own people, and really just starting that way slower. And then instead of like spending all this money, trusting this person that I really, I should have spent more time vetting that person really and making sure they knew what they were doing, right? I just kind of trusted that they knew what they were doing. And I'm not gonna, like I said, throw them under the bus, but yeah, it didn't really work out very well for us. So yeah, lesson learned.
Yeah, I mean, based on what it sounds like, I don't think that the person or the company that recruited it's the problem. It sounds like we maybe didn't manage the person correctly or even choose to put the right person in the seat before we even decided to manage them. But you keep bringing up time. Like that's a constant word that you keep bringing up. So there's got to be something more behind that. Is there like, are you missing time with the kids right now? Or like when you say time, it sounds like it's important.
Absolutely. Well, it's one thing we have all, it's finite, right? That's the one thing you can't buy back. There's
Yep.
only one March, was it 5th, 2026. We're never going to get this back. Yeah, I have 5 kids and I have 3 young boys. And I think I value, the older I get, get a little nostalgic, but I'm not getting any younger. And I didn't, when I first started this journey, yeah, I was, obviously I started with this end in mind. Like I didn't want to trade, time for money. But it's even that much stronger now. I don't mind working hard, but there was a season in the business where, I didn't have to work all that hard for money, right? And I didn't appreciate that, of course. And then there was a season where I was working my butt off and making far less. It's funny how that kind of works out, right? And
Yep.
so, or making nothing at all, losing money. So it's just because you work hard doesn't necessarily, promise results. It can help. It is part of it. I truly believe that. But working smarter rather than harder, there's definitely something to that too, right? Being productive. Being productive. I think a lot of us get stuck in this hamster wheel of busy work and doing the wrong things rather than spending the time focused solely on the RGAs, which another buzzword, but it's easy to get distracted. A lot of shiny objects in our industry and life in general, right? And a lot of balls to juggle, especially with a family of 5 kids, 3 dogs, 2 cats, a bunny, and a partridge in a pear tree. You get distracted, and there's only so much finite time to go around. So you can see why. And of course, I want to spend time with my wife, and you get that too with being a mother, I'm sure, and a spouse. It's hard to find time, to do that too. So yeah, it's very
Yeah,
important.
the reality is that you don't get time without people. That's just like black and white. And a lot of times, what I see common, and I've done a lot of these podcasts lately, and I'm seeing a common trend. Um, when somebody chases a shiny object, it's typically because they're not aligned on where they're trying to go. And there's not one mission like on paper, framed, and in your bedroom. And when you have one goal, one singular goal, then every decision that you make a lot has to align with that goal or it's a no. And a lot of and another thing is, and I don't know if like your wife's involved in the business or anything like that. I don't know anything
Not
about her
really.
kids or whatever. But not only is it one singular goal, but is it you and your wife's singular goal together if you're married? And if it's not, and you're both not aligned on this one thing, then it's really easy to like chase things over here and over there and over here and over here because you're like, I just got to go like survive essentially. And so I'll give you an example. Over the last 10 years, I've had more than a million opportunities come at me, from partnerships and companies and all these things. And I've turned down like 99.9% of them because I had one mission in mind. And if it didn't align with this one goal, it was a no. And in this journey, I knew that yes, I wanted to be a mom eventually and have kids. And I knew that I had to have a season of grinding it out. And a lot of times when we say the word season, people will think a season means 3 months. No, a season is years typically. At least to get rolling. And so since we don't have someone in acquisitions right now, I guess what is the plan with that? Because ultimately your time will never be there if we don't have someone sole focused on revenue. And I've heard you bring up the concept of like cheaper, save money, all that, but like do we think that that's the mindset that's going to get us the end result?
Probably not. There's a time and place for it, though. I mean, I think it's you got to look at also the budget. Where can you allocate those funds? And I guess right now, my focus is on, obviously generating money, being as efficient as possible. When you bring on acquisitions, it's not always my experience anyway, you don't know 100%, if they're going to work out in the very beginning. Right now, I don't have that luxury, right? I just can't, um, yeah, take the time to train
Why
somebody.
don't why don't you think they're gonna work out in the beginning?
Um, well, just from my experience, from what's happened over the last, 18 months with different acquisitions, they have a great interview. They score very well. They
Did
start
you put
off,
them through the 4 interview process? Like, did you do the working interviews?
yes, well, yes and no. Working interviews, maybe describe some of that for me.
So in the program, right, we have a phone interview to make sure that they're not wasting our time. So we have a individual that does that. We don't get on the phones and do it. It's like, do these hours work? Does the job description work? Does the pay expectations work? Blah blah blah. So that we weed out a bunch of the people that apply.
Yes,
Then we do
definitely.
a direct Zoom interview for about 10-15 minutes. The whole point of that is just to like get a quick review of someone to set expectations for the third interview because I don't know about you, but we're pretty good at reading if you're going to fit into our culture or not in like less than 10 minutes. And then we
Right.
go into a third interview where there's like 45 minutes of Q&A and then we have a 20 to 30-minute core value exercise we do, which is by far the most important out of all of it. And then we go into a surprise working interview. And in that working interview, we know if someone's going to make it or break it. And anyone who's ever skipped that interview, it typically backfires on them. After they get through the working interview, we then do a team meetup, which we define as like, hey, coffee, lunch, whatever, just to make sure that they're going to fit into our culture. Because when it comes to sales, right? Like sales is like a sport. And so if we don't feel like we're gonna vibe, this isn't gonna work out. And so we're really big about making sure that everyone fits in the culture, the core values, and all that. As long as you're coachable and growth oriented, like I can turn a burger flipper into an assassin killer. As long as you have great onboarding, training, and management. And from there, it has been proven now for a decade of us hiring closers that once we put them through the 2-week onboarding, we've never had one closer come into our company and get less than 5 deals in the first 30 days on the phone. So there's a gap in either we're putting the wrong person in the seat and not interviewing them correctly, or the day that they start at the company, are we following a process of onboarding them and then getting on what we call after the first 2 weeks of onboarding on like what we call hands-on coaching for the next 2 weeks. And then it's daily huddles, daily sales training, metrics, weekly one-on-ones, call reviews. That is the only way we actually get to live with some level of time freedom. Right? Like Josh and I just were gone for, I don't know, a week or 2 recently, and my closers locked up 11 deals. So, like, now when we're in the office, we're still working, right? But I can still go on vacation and have time freedom with my kids.
Right.
And so it sounds like there is a massive gap in either who we're putting in the role or once they're in the role, what are we doing next?
Yeah, probably a combination of both. I mean, I checked 3 of those 4 boxes. The last one though, for one, and it's an excuse. I mean, the team's virtual, so should have done a better job of introducing them to the team first before like just saying, here they are going through the trainings and whatnot. It was more one-on-one, and then I kind of introduced them to the team after the fact. And so I mean, especially the last uh, gentleman that we brought on, that was very noticeable, very obvious to me from him that, hey, the team really doesn't like me. We're not really jiving. That was a big red flag. Now, I was already planning on letting some of those people go based on performance. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. But obviously, I put the cart before the horse. I should have still, regardless, just it's even more important, I think, in some ways, because as a virtual office, because we're not together, you have to create that teamwork, that camaraderie. It's a lot more challenging to create that culture, and I can see why a lot of companies don't do the virtual thing because it is very difficult. And I see why you guys don't do that. So
Yeah, I mean, we
yeah,
also in results driven have virtual closers. So we
right,
have some in-house, some virtual. And so some different things that we've done to keep culture there is we have we leverage Slack on that side. And so we have like themes that we do in games and we try to gamify the process when we're virtual. So like they all have like team panda, team tiger, team whatever. And then we create competitions and they're in constant communication. Like we're in constant daily huddles, constant Zooms, like so everyone is very close on the team, whether they're in Phoenix or in Ohio. And so ultimately, let's go backtrack because the gap here is that you want more time and stability. Neither one of those will happen without people. So, like, I know that you are saying like you are deeming or I don't know, labeling like the book Who Not the How, right? You were like, "Ah, it's just a buzz." No, it's not a buzzword, right? It's not. Like
Yeah.
it's you either want your time and consistency or you don't, and those aren't buzzwords, those are real. So like if you're serious about getting your time back, we have no other option than to hire a closer.
Right.
And then if not, what's going to happen is you drop this mail that you just spent thousands of dollars on, and then you're going to take a call. Let's say you do lock up a deal. My guess is you're running around after that because you don't have much of a team. And so you're doing too many moving pieces right now. And the company can't be consistent unless one thing is sole focus on revenue. That's why I always tell everyone like there's lots of roles we need to hire at some point, but nothing comes before acquisitions because if deal flow isn't consistent, then we don't have the money to keep investing back into the company. But you have to be willing to become the person who deserves the result. And right now there's some leadership gaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my guess is, I don't know, like having 5 kids is crazy because I have 2 and they're crazy. And, I get it. Like I'm in a marriage. I work with my business partner. I have 2 little ones crazy. They're starting to, sailors starting to get in athletics, whatever. And I know what it's like to come home and be like, not see Josh until 9:30 at night when I'm exhausted. And
Mhm.
so my guess is if your mindset isn't clear either because you don't have certainty, I'm just guessing as the man of the household who likely has to provide for the household, you're carrying this weight from the day-to-day operation into your home life. So we have to make a decision. Do we want to become that person or not?
Absolutely.
So what are we going to
Yeah.
do next?
Well, I guess I need to become that person so I can start bringing on people the right way.
What do you think is causing the gap to become it? Is it like the willingness or cuz I mean, you've had access to the knowledge before.
Yeah, I guess part of it not, maybe following the process, outsmarting it, knowing better, the ego, pride, and then, things not working out, getting burned by certain people. And that's, yeah, mostly my own fault. Uh,
When you say getting burned, what do you mean? Like what kind of people?
well, different reasons. I mean, people come on, not following certain protocol, being shady, doing certain things, not putting in an effort. Combination of different factors, right? It's all the above.
Do you
You have
have
to.
do you have company core values?
Yes.
Okay. And then how do you express those in the interview process?
How do we express them in the interview process? Well, that's a good point. We usually bring them up toward the end, and we go over those core values. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not like incorporated throughout the entire process, if that's what you mean.
Okay. So and you're aware of I mean, because we've been doing it for years, the core value exercise we do in interviews.
Right. I
So
believe
did you
so.
do that or no?
I can't remember. I don't think so. I don't think we were doing the exercise. We were doing something similar, but it was like at the end. Yeah, really, when we already kind of decided we were hiring them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so do you want me to be soft or do you want me to be direct right now?
No, be direct. Be
All
direct.
right. So the reality is sometimes people come on here and I'm like, well, this is easy. This is just a knowledge gap. We got to get trained, whatever. This isn't a knowledge gap. You know that you've had access to this. You know that you have the network and the community. You know people, right? Like you've been to our events, you've been to these things. And the gaps that you have today, years later, by the way, are gaps that you have had access to, but you've chosen not to do them. And I get it. Like I've been in those shoes and I'm like, I think I know better. I've had ego issues in the past. But I just want to challenge you right now because the beginning of this call, the why behind everything is time and kids. And so every decision that you're making today, tomorrow, and the next day is the decision that's impacting them at home. And so I know that it's like you're kind of saying it with a smile and you're like, yeah, you're right. I didn't do that. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And it's like, well, which one do we want? Do we want to go home and have time with the kids? Do we want consistency or do we want to keep trying to penny pinch and think that that's going to be the answer because it has proven not to be the answer? And it's not even about penny pinching. I still think people can have consistency, especially if you're wanting to do like 30 to whatever, anything under call it 50,000. I think that like you can have one closer, maybe a follow specialist, and you'll definitely have some level of freedom. Okay. But at the end of the day, it won't create that if we don't know how to onboard them, train them, or manage them. And so I think that's the main gap in your life right now is we have to close that one gap. And then, what'll happen is you'll find some progress, you'll make some money, and then um and I'm sure you've had some success at one point with deals where it's like, okay, I feel relieved. I'm making some money. I don't have to feel in survival. And then you start thinking a little bit bigger and you inch your way towards more progress. But right now, we're not even going to get like 10 feet ahead without this one gap being closed.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I hindsight 2020, what I think, well, I know happened was it came too easy in the beginning because, well, I went through the hustle season, right? I grinded, I made things work, made things happen. And then instead of like really learning the right way to hire, even though I had the training and the knowledge, I brought in my brother out of
Exactly
combination of
what we
different,
tell people not to do.
yeah, combination of different reasons. And it wasn't that he was bad at all. He actually he was right. He told me when we parted ways, he was like, "I'm holding you back," and he was right about that. And I really wanted him to succeed. I think this isn't about him, but I mean, he's not really where he wants to be either. And there's a small part of me that would like to bring him back because things were better, when we were working together. And it may not be completely out of the realm of possibility, but it can't be until I get this right and I fix how I bring people and how I hire them.
Yeah,
Because
I also think that, like, it sounds like your workplace environment doesn't and it sounds like you have core values, but they're not necessarily being enforced. And sometimes because we all like came from corporate and we're used to being at these companies where they throw the core values up on the wall and all this stuff. I take core values like it's my number one priority. And so
right,
I genuinely think they're the standard of like our workplace. And when somebody breaks one, I don't even got to say anything because my team's coming and saying, "Hey, you need to address this person or you need to let go of this person because they aren't aligning with this culture." And the key is I'm not trying to make the culture align for them. This is the company that I own and I want it to fit into my standards, my core values, right? And now the people that align with me, we thrive. But if you don't align with that in the interview process, cool. Don't care how good you are, you're not going to work here. And so, for example, I've hired family before and I've had to fire them because, yes, we're family. I love you outside of this, but how I operate in a workplace environment, we just don't share the same standards.
right,
And you need to be careful with that because like you're already resorting in your head to like the easy way out of something that could work versus just doing it right from the start. Like, here's the standards, here's the mantra, here's how we're going to operate as an organization, here's the culture I'm going to build and why I'm going to build it, here's where the hell we're going, and you're either on board or you're out.
I hear you.
So I think right now to move the needle before, by the way, in my opinion, you go spend way more money on marketing because we had this discussion about marketing. What is the point in spending money on marketing if we can't consistently close the deals when the leads come in? Like, I would rather have someone primed on the phones that's all they do.
Right.
That or we bring in a follow-up specialist that weeds through stuff for you. You become the closer and groom them up, but in a very short time period. So we would need to still, when we go to recruit, hire someone that is a closer skill set, not necessarily a follow-up specialist.
I like that. I like that idea. I think I would probably do that
Yeah, it just
before.
gives you like, call it 90 days to slowly ramp them up so that you don't like risk some deals, make you feel a little bit more confident about that part of it. But ultimately, let's make sure that we're onboarding and training and all that first. Like, we need to make sure we have all that in line. But at the end of the day, like, if you're like, "Hey, I don't necessarily need my time, I just gotta make money for the family," then I might have a different answer. But if you're like, "I wanna go spend time with my kids and have some level of financial stability," then we need a closer.
Well, I think I got to get the stability first, and um, then hire the follow specialist that turns into the closer. I mean, that's where I need to be right now.
I mean, it
Just
sounds
make
like
sure.
you have a guy helping with flips and stuff, so that's good. Um,
Oh yeah, that part's easy. That part's
yeah,
hands off. I mean, that's
so
the thing. Once we get the deal, it's yeah, that part's easy.
and then when it comes to mail, I know we talked about this before the show started. I mean, that's all just a KPI game. So like we can get out your KPI tracker, review it, we'll be able to identify what the hell's happening. Does the company you're working with have what they call mail coaches or no? Like is it hands off once you submit the campaign?
I mean, they offer a little bit of this and that, but it's not like I know what you're referring to some of these other companies. Not really. I mean, at least not from my experience. I mean,
Yeah, I
no.
mean, just my opinion. Like, that's why I there's only 2 companies I would recommend at this point, and I am a big believer that I work with a mail company that has whatever they wanna call them. I call 'em mail coaches. I don't know what they define them in their company, but,
Right.
because they're obviously seeing people's results all across the country. So they're testing mail pieces in all different regions. They know the stats literally in their system live for all mail pieces. And so they'll tell me, hey, this meal piece is tracking at this response rate in this region versus this region. Hey, this
Mm.
is what's working on this list versus this list. And without that feedback loop, we could drop 5, 10, 20 grand and blow it, when we could have had access to getting the help. And it's easy to blow money on marketing without the guidance. And so I would just say, like, we need to reevaluate one, who we're using, and then two, we need to do like a KPI audit of your scorecard and just see, like, what it's telling us before we go drop more money on it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's a good point.
And then terms of I know you said something, under a smaller budget. This is just, what I'm seeing in the community right now across the board. If you have less than 3 to $5,000 a month, you might have a little bit more, but let's just call it under 5,000. This is what I'm seeing working the most is folks are and I can drop a link in the chat or the thing, but, and do you use Data Sift or just the Dataflix, data?
The data sift.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing is people doing the first to market strategy and deep
Mm.
prospecting, and then what they're doing from a mail perspective is they're following their sequential like, they're only mailing them after they do so many calls and whatnot. Have you been in their challenge lately?
I have. Yeah,
Okay,
we're building that out.
they're they're having one starting next week, and from I actually just talked to them last week, and they have a bunch of new stuff they're rolling out on how
Lot of
they're
AI stuff. Yeah. Hmm.
so we're also joining it, like, our own team. Um, and So even internally right now, one thing that we are testing because we're used to sending 80,000 to 100,000 pieces of mail. We actually decided to test, which we're a little nervous about, but we're doing it. We cut mail from literally like 80,000 to under 5,000 pieces. And we decided this time to take it and go straight to first to market. And we're making the mail pieces specific to those situations. And we're gonna see, do we get more deals per mail pieces doing this route versus what we were doing, like, on a bigger scale, and then
Mm.
we'll ramp it back up. So we don't know yet, but we've only been doing that now for, like, I don't know, you have to ask Josh, a month or 2, and I also am not gonna guarantee this result because it's kinda crazy, but we have a deal for every $300 in mail we've spent on that,
That's crazy.
the the process that ties to us. Now, keep in mind, it's not many deals though, because the list is so small, right?
Right.
And so, like, it just depends on someone's goals. We want volume of deals. So, like, but for your situation, I would highly recommend it. So we will probably ramp up a little bit bigger, but it is working in the sense of like if I was spending under 5,000 a month, we are testing it internally to say, hey, let's just pretend we only have that and
Yeah.
run the situation, and we've been able to get, like, that 2 to 3 deals a month pretty consistently the last couple months off of it.
Is that still through print mail or you guys are using?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I thought.
Yeah, and I personally, like, love their mail coaches. Open Letter also has mail coaches. I think they're both great
Mhm.
companies.
Right.
Um, And I believe, don't quote me on this, I could be wrong, but I believe we have like a 10% discount on REI print mail if you tell them results driven.
Right.
Um, so I would just get with them. They also, if like you tell them you're with results driven, anything that we're doing, we've given them permission to share with anyone from our community because we've been deemed like a beta tester for them. So like if they have a new design mail piece or whatever, they'll use us in our region to test. So you're
Right.
welcome to go to them and say, "Hey, like what are they testing? What's working? What's not?" And they'll tell you.
Definitely. I'll take you up on that for sure.
Well, I think we've identified some gaps, but ultimately this is just something I want you to reflect on because you're a father of 5 and I like that, hits my heart cuz I work with my husband who also is trying to balance being a provider and having kids and all that. Um is are you willing to become that person? And if so, if you want help, obviously we're here, let us know. But I think that right now, like for you to get this result, we have to change who we are and level ourselves up and you have access to the knowledge. It's just a matter of like, do you want to execute on it? It's really that simple.
Absolutely.
So, and how old's the youngest, by the way? You said diapers.
16-ish months. Yeah.
Oh, so same age as my little one. Hopefully, though, they're not as crazy as mine because mine's crazy.
Yeah, he's something else. He's a blessing, but he's a lot of work. Devin
Yeah.
Joe is what we call him. Yeah, by his first and middle name. So
I swear my little girl is like a boy because from what I've heard, I don't have a boy, but everyone describes little boys. And I'm like, she is like an epitome of a little boy. She's jumps on everything, flies off of it. And I'm like, you're going to die one day. Like,
it's a lot different. It's a lot different for sure. Because and even my oldest son, because he has autism. So that was it was definitely a big difference between him and then my second son and the last one. The last two boys, yeah, they're all boy for sure.
yeah,
And
that's
so it's
funny.
a night and day difference from the girls when they're little. They get older, it's a different story too. So you're gonna have the worst of both worlds, so to
That's
speak.
funny. Yeah,
So
we'll see.
no.
Well, I'm gonna wrap this up. You obviously have our number, so
Yeah.
if you don't have Coach Aaron's number, like I can get it to you after this. But leverage Coach Aaron, reach out to him, have a deeper conversation around this topic. Maybe see where you know what we can do to help you if you want help, and if not, like that's where I think you need to focus your time on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tiffany. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. All right, everyone. I will leave any links in the show notes that we pertain to today, and I'll see you on the next one.